Welcome to the 2026 Toyota BZ. They basically started all over with this car. It's no longer the BZ4X.
Toyota spent the last few years looking like it missed the future. While Chinese brands like BYD, Xiaomi and Geely were winning attention with cheaper EVs, smarter tech and aggressive pricing, Toyota was still known more for hybrids, reliability and playing it safe. But now Toyota is trying to change that with a new wave of electric and plug-in hybrid cars built to fight China on price, range, technology and trust. So why is Toyota's new EV comeback becoming a serious problem for China? For a long time, Toyota had one of the strongest reputations in the car world. If someone wanted a car that lasted for years, Toyota was one of the safest answers. If someone wanted a hybrid that saved gas without making life complicated, Toyota had the Prius, the RAV4 Hybrid, the Camry Hybrid, and years of real-world trust behind them. The company did not need to chase every trend because its formula already worked. Then the EV market changed the conversation. Suddenly, people were asking different questions. They wanted bigger screens, smarter software, faster charging, lower prices, and cars that felt more futuristic. In China, that change happened faster than almost anywhere else. BYD became a global name. Xiaomi went from phones to cars and grabbed attention almost overnight. Geely, NIO, Xpeng, Li Auto, and other Chinese brands turned the market into a speed race, where new features appeared constantly. That made Toyota look slow. Toyota's first major global EV effort, the BZ4X, did not feel like the kind of product people expected from the world's largest automaker. The name was awkward, the range was not shocking, the charging was not class-leading, and the whole car felt more like Toyota carefully testing the water than Toyota trying to dominate. That gave Chinese brands an opening. They could say they were moving faster. They could say they were giving buyers more technology for less money. They could say Japan's most famous automaker was still stuck between the hybrid world it had mastered and the electric world China was trying to own. The pressure was not only coming from sales charts, it was also coming from the way people talked about the future of cars. Chinese brands were creating excitement, while Toyota was starting to feel like the safe choice from the previous generation. For Toyota, that was dangerous, because once buyers start believing a company is behind, reliability alone is not always enough. Trust matters, but excitement matters too. A car can be dependable and still feel old. That was the problem Toyota had to solve, and now Toyota is starting to answer. The first sign of that answer is the new Toyota BZ. This is the vehicle that used to be called the BZ4X in North America, and that detail alone says a lot. Toyota took a car with an awkward name and a mixed reputation, then gave it a shorter name, more range, more power, and better charging access. That may sound like a normal update, but it matters because Toyota had to fix its weakest EV message. The updated BZ can now offer up to 314 miles of EPA estimated range on the right front-wheel drive version, while all-wheel drive versions can make up to 338 horsepower. Toyota also added a native NACS charging port, which means the car can use Tesla's charging standard in North America. That is a big change. One of the biggest complaints about non-Tesla EVs has always been charging. Tesla made charging feel easier because the supercharger network was simple and reliable in many places. Other automakers often had to depend on public charging networks that could be slower, broken, or confusing. By adding the Tesla-style port, Toyota is removing one of the biggest reasons people avoided its EV. It also makes the BZ feel less isolated from the rest of the market, because charging access is one of the first things normal buyers worry about before they ever compare horsepower or screen size. The updated BZ is still not the most exciting electric SUV in the world, and Toyota still has a lot to prove, but it shows that Toyota listened. The company took the car that made people question its EV strategy and made it more competitive. That is important because a comeback usually starts with fixing the obvious weakness, and Toyota's next move shows why its answer to China goes beyond pure EVs. The 2026 RAV4 Plug-in Hybrid may be the most Toyota answer possible. Chinese EV brands have been pushing pure electric cars hard, but Toyota is not trying to follow them in the exact same way. Toyota's strategy is different because it believes many buyers still want electric driving without depending completely on chargers. That is where the RAV4 Plug-in Hybrid becomes a serious weapon. For 2026, Toyota's plug-in hybrid system makes 324 horsepower and offers up to 52 miles of estimated electric-only range on the SE and XSE grades. That means many drivers could do normal daily trips on electricity without using gas, then still have a gasoline engine for longer drives. That is the part Chinese EV brands cannot ignore. Pure EVs can be cheaper to run and smoother to drive, but they still depend on chargers. If the charger is far away, broken, slow, or crowded, the experience gets worse. A plug-in hybrid gives buyers a different kind of confidence. They can charge at home when it is convenient, drive electrically for normal errands, and still take a road trip without planning their whole day around charging stops. Toyota understands that fear better than most automakers. It spent decades making hybrids feel normal. The Prius trained millions of buyers to trust batteries, electric motors, and gasoline engines working together. The RAV4 Plug-in Hybrid takes that same idea and makes it more useful for a world where people want electric driving, but still worry about charging. The RAV4 name also matters here. This is not some strange experiment that buyers have to learn from scratch. It is one of Toyota's most familiar vehicles, which means the technology is being placed inside a car people already understand. This is why Toyota's comeback is harder for China to attack than it may seem. If Toyota only tried to beat BYD with pure EVs, it would be entering China's strongest battlefield. Chinese brands have massive battery supply chains, low prices, fast development cycles, and a home market where EV competition is brutal. Toyota is choosing a wider fight. It is using plug-in hybrids in the places where buyers still want backup, and that gives Toyota a lane where its history actually helps. That makes the comeback broader. Toyota is giving different buyers different levels of electrification, instead of betting everything on one answer. The updated BZ fixes the EV weakness. The RAV4 plug-in hybrid protects Toyota's strongest practical advantage. Then Toyota takes that same idea into one of the toughest vehicles it has ever built. The Hilux is famous because people trust it in places where vehicles get abused. Farms, mines, construction sites, deserts, rough roads, remote towns, and work sites have made the Hilux one of Toyota's most important global nameplates. For many buyers, the Hilux is not a lifestyle truck, it is a tool. That is why the Hilux BEV matters. Toyota is bringing battery electric power into a vehicle that people expect to be tough. Toyota's UK media site says the Hilux BEV keeps serious work numbers, including a 715 kilogram payload, 1.6 ton towing capacity, 212 millimeters of ground clearance, and 700 millimeters of wading depth. Those numbers are important because they show Toyota understands the fear around electric work vehicles. Buyers want to know whether the truck can still do the job. Can it carry tools? Can it tow? Can it drive through rough places? Can it handle water, dirt, heat, and long days? Can it still feel like a Hilux? Toyota's answer is to keep the Hilux identity while adding an electric version. That does not mean the Hilux BEV will replace every diesel truck tomorrow. Electric pickups still face real limits, especially around range, charging, towing, and remote use. In many markets, diesel and hybrid trucks will still make more sense for a long time. But Toyota is no longer leaving the segment untouched. China's EV rise is reaching more than small cars and city commuters. Chinese companies are moving into SUVs, sedans, pickups, luxury vehicles, buses, and commercial vehicles. If Toyota wants to defend its global position, it has to electrify vehicles people already trust, not only build new EVs with unfamiliar names. The Hilux BEV shows Toyota understands that. It is taking one of its toughest nameplates and preparing it for an electric future, while still respecting the buyers who need trucks for real work. But the most interesting part of Toyota's comeback is not in America or Europe, it is inside China. The Toyota BZ7 is the twist in the story. For years, people talked about Toyota fighting Chinese EV brands from the outside. But with the BZ7, Toyota is doing something much more interesting. It is building a China market EV with Chinese technology partners for Chinese buyers inside the world's most competitive EV market. That is a very different kind of comeback. The BZ7 comes from GAC Toyota, Toyota's joint venture in China. Reports say it launched with strong early demand, including more than 3,100 orders in the first hour. It is a large electric sedan, and the important part is the technology behind it. The BZ7 uses Huawei's Harmony OS cockpit, Momenta's R6 driver assistance system, Huawei's Drive 1 electric powertrain, and integration with Xiaomi's smart ecosystem. In plain English, Toyota is using some of China's own tech ecosystem to build a car that can compete with Chinese EV brands on their home turf. That is a major shift. Toyota is not walking into China and expecting the badge to do all the work. That might have worked years ago, but China's EV buyers now expect more. They expect big screens, smart software, fast responses, local apps, advanced driver assistance features, and prices that feel aggressive. They are used to cars that behave more like smartphones on wheels. So Toyota changed the play. Instead of forcing the same global Toyota formula into China, it built something more local. The BZ7 shows that China has become so advanced in EV software and smart car features that even Toyota needs Chinese technology to compete there. That does not make Toyota look weak. It makes Toyota look awake. The old Toyota could rely on reliability and patience, but in China, patience can look like falling behind. If buyers want a smarter cockpit, Toyota has to offer it. If buyers want advanced driver assistance, Toyota has to offer it. If buyers want China-style value, Toyota has to compete with that too. That is why the BZ7 may be the most important car in this comeback. It shows Toyota is willing to meet Chinese buyers where they are, rather than telling them to accept the same kind of Toyota product sold everywhere else. The updated BZ shows Toyota fixing its EV mistakes. The RAV4 Plug-in Hybrid shows Toyota using its hybrid strength. The Hilux BEV shows Toyota electrifying trusted work vehicles. But the BZ7 shows Toyota learning how to fight China inside China. And that is what makes the comeback dangerous. China is still extremely hard to beat. Toyota launching better electric and plug-in hybrid cars does not suddenly erase China's advantages. Chinese automakers still move very fast. They have huge battery supply chains, intense local competition, strong software ecosystems, and a customer base that is already comfortable with electric cars. China's car industry also has something Toyota cannot copy overnight: speed. Chinese brands can launch new models quickly, cut prices aggressively, and add features at a pace that makes older automakers uncomfortable. A car that feels impressive one year can look ordinary the next because another Chinese brand shows up with more range, more screens, more sensors, or a lower price. Toyota is built differently. Toyota is careful. It tests, refines, protects quality, and avoids rushing when it thinks rushing could hurt reliability. That approach helped Toyota become trusted around the world. But it can also make the company feel slow in a market where speed is part of the product. That is the risk. Toyota has to prove that it can move faster without losing the thing people trust it for. It has to prove its software can feel modern. It has to prove its EVs can charge well. It has to prove its China market cars can stay exciting next to BYD, Xiaomi, Geely, and the other brands fighting for attention every month. It also has to prove that its comeback is more than a few promising launches. One improved EV does not solve everything. One plug-in hybrid does not stop China. One electric Hilux does not change the whole pickup market. One smart sedan in China does not guarantee Toyota has suddenly mastered software. But together, these vehicles show a pattern. Toyota is improving its pure EVs, expanding plug-in hybrids, electrifying trusted nameplates, and building China-specific cars with local technology. That is a much more serious answer than Toyota had a few years ago. And this is why the title matters. Toyota's new EV comeback is a serious problem for China because Toyota does not need to beat Chinese brands at every single thing to become dangerous again. It only needs to close the gap while keeping the trust it already has. Chinese brands have speed. Toyota has trust. Chinese brands have aggressive pricing. Toyota has scale. Chinese brands have smart tech. Toyota is starting to add more of that too. That combination is what changes the story. For years, the EV world made Toyota look late. That was the easy narrative. Tesla made EVs desirable. BYD made them cheaper and more mainstream. Xiaomi made them feel like tech products. Chinese automakers made the whole industry move faster. Toyota, the company that once made hybrids feel normal, suddenly looked like it was watching the future from the sidelines. But Toyota was never going to fight China by becoming a Chinese EV startup. Its comeback is different. It is using pure EVs where they make sense, plug-in hybrids where buyers still need backup, electric trucks where work vehicles need to evolve, and China-specific technology where the market demands it. This strategy may not create the same instant hype as a flashy Chinese launch, but it fits the way Toyota usually wins: practical, careful, broad, built around trust. And if Toyota can add enough technology and excitement to that formula, China's advantage becomes less comfortable, because the hardest company to beat is not always the one that moves first. Sometimes it is the one that learns late, fixes its mistakes, and brings millions of loyal buyers with it. That is what China now has to watch. Toyota may have looked slow, but slow is not the same as finished. And if this comeback works, China's EV rise may no longer look unstoppable.